You're listening to EFT Radio Online, where we explore Meridian tapping techniques for self-help and peak performance. By listening to this audio, you agree to the disclaimer located at eftradioonline.com/disclaimer. If you'd like to get the schedule of all the upcoming EFT radio shows and access to archive shows, please visit us at eftradioonline.com, where you can subscribe to our free newsletter.
Are you a fellow peace seeker who is ready to shine? How would it feel to take back your personal power and be calm and centered in any situation? Join empowerment coach Stephenie for Live Your Best Life, where we'll harness the power of the law of attraction and the art of creating affirmations. Get ready to say yes to your best life.
Welcome, fellow peace seekers. You know, when I'm asked to describe emotional freedom techniques to someone who's never heard of it, I usually tell them it works on the Meridian system and that it's kind of like acupuncture but without using the needles. Since I became an EFT practitioner, I've really wanted to learn a bit more about the complexities of the Meridian system and acupuncture itself. So if you're curious about this system and you want to know if this knowledge will help improve your tapping, join me on today's show. I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with my friend Tijen, a registered acupuncturist and registered massage therapist here in Ontario, Canada. Tijen's really developed a passion about the science of acupuncture, and I'm really happy to bring you her knowledge today. If you want to contact her, you can follow her on Instagram or on Facebook at Earth Kisses Sky, or you can visit her website, earthkissessky.com. So folks, get ready and enjoy the show. Okay, so welcome, Tijen, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have you here. And I've been very excited about this, actually. I think our listeners are really going to be very interested today in what we have in store. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, first of all, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how listeners can reach you?
Oh, sure. Well, my name is Tijen, and I have been practicing acupuncture since 2009 or so. And I also am a registered massage therapist located in Stony Creek. And they can reach me by visiting my website at www.earthkissessky.com for any questions you may have.
Fantastic. So you're in Ontario, Stony Creek, Ontario, Canada.
Yes.
Wonderful. And so we have a few questions here. First of all, I'd really love to educate our listeners on what exactly acupuncture is, if they haven't experienced it or they don't know much about it. Could you tell us a little bit about that, maybe some of the history, how acupuncture is done?
Oh, yeah, sure, no problem. I mean, you can spend decades learning this medicine, but I'll try and do it as brief as possible. So what acupuncture involves is the insertion of thin needles through the patient's skin at specific points of the body. And it's mainly used to alleviate pain and to treat various mental or emotional conditions. And it goes way back. I mean, it goes back into 5,000 years, originating in China. But nowadays, it's widely practiced here in the West. And how it works is traditional Chinese medicine, it is explained that the health is a result of balance between yin and yang, and it's the life force known as qi. I don't know, in tapping, do you guys explain qi a bit, right?
Well, we talk about the meridians of the body.
Meridians.
So,
okay.
The
energy
system.
Oh, okay. So the qi is said to flow through the meridians, which are pathways in the bodies, as you know. And these meridians and energy flow may be accessed through the 350 different acupuncture points. So when there's an imbalance, let's say an imbalance of forces, illness is said to become the outcome. And then when the needles are inserted, the energy flow can be brought back. So that's pretty much acupuncture in a nutshell. And I mean, you can talk hours about this, but does that make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it sort of parallels EFT in that when we tap on specific points in the body, the energy flows through the system. Mm-hmm. So it's really affecting the energy in our body and creating some balance. So balance for the nervous system, sort of calming the nervous system down, calming the amygdala, which is the smoke detector of the body. So just in your perspective, because I know you've been reading up on EFT, and you know me, and I do EFT, of course.
Yes, you introduced it to me, so I'm learning a lot about it. It's quite interesting.
That's wonderful. So, in your opinion, I mean, what are the main differences? How are acupuncture and EFT similar, and how are they different from each other?
Well, I would say the main difference is that EFT obviously does not use needles, where I, as a practitioner, would apply the use of needles. So that would be the main difference. However, like acupuncture does address the acupoints, meridians, and the flow of energy, which we discussed, through the body, which as does EFT. And another difference would be that you must be properly trained and registered to effectively apply acupuncture, where EFT is great because you can be taught quickly to anyone at any age. So I do know there are some acupuncturists who actually do teach their clients EFT for them to use at home. So it is nice to have an option to be able to give your clients homework, and they can be easily taught this process.
That's fantastic. I didn't realize that. That's such a wonderful thing to do. Mm-hmm. And yeah, EFT is so easily taught to anyone. Anyone can do it at any time. It's portable, so that's a great thing about it too.
Exactly.
Fantastic. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about the key tapping points. Of course, in EFT, we have a certain number of points that are used regularly. There are more that we won't discuss today, but I wanted to ask you, in terms of the main tapping points, what meridian and what it corresponds to, both physically and mentally and emotionally too, because it does have its roots in Chinese medicine. So I'd be very interested, and I think that our listeners today will really love to learn a little bit more about these tapping points.
Absolutely, yes.
Wonderful. So let's start with the side of the hand, what we call the karate chop point, that little fleshy part of the hand just beneath the baby finger and the beginning of the wrist or the wrist bone.
Okay, so this point activates a point on the small intestine meridian, SI3. And its primary action when needle, it helps relax the muscle channels, opening the Du meridian, also known as the governing vessel. And it helps to clear the Shen, which we call it, or spirit. And the Du meridian, it runs vertically along the spinal column, and it has a powerful effect on the entire central nervous system, including the spinal column and spinal cord and brain. So it actually helps if anyone comes in with, let's say they're presenting themselves with pain, having a stiff neck, or they've had a sprain or a strain in their neck or pain in the back. It can help in combination with other points to relax the muscles. And emotionally, if they're walking in feeling stuck or have a hard time with letting go, needling this point will definitely improve the client to be happy in the present moment. So it's a very, very unique point in the sense where in combination it can help with many, many different things.
Wonderful. So it kind of helps them to let go of where they're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
okay.
so sometimes with sorrow or grief, if they're worrying and having any compulsiveness, this point will definitely help with the letting go of grief and ability to feel happy again.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful. So next, the next point I'd love to hear about is the eyebrow point, that little space just before the eyebrow begins at the bridge of the nose.
Okay, so the eyebrow point is the second point on the bladder meridian, UB2. This meridian begins at the inner eye. It flows up over the head and down either side of the spine, continuing down the back of the legs, and it ends at the little toe. So it's quite a long meridian. This point, along with other point prescriptions, may be used to help balance. Anyone that presents with allergies or headaches, any glaucoma or eye issue. I would say if someone comes in with frustration, impatience, restlessness, this point is great to allow them to relax and be at peace and start beginning their emotional healing. You'll notice sometimes people, if they come in with frown marks, it helps relax that muscle in between the eye just to ease that feeling, if that makes sense.
Oh yes, those terrible scowl marks that we all want to get rid of.
Well, it does show a history, so not necessarily get rid of completely, but it does show how intense a person may be in a good, positive way too, and how it can also be, I don't know, I'm rambling now, but you get what I'm saying.
Absolutely. So the next point I'd like you to speak about is the outside of the eye. So that's where the eyebrow ends, on that little bone just at the ridge.
Right. Okay, so this point, it's not quite on the temple, correct? It's more of the inside side?
Yeah, it's right if you trace your finger along your eyebrow, right where the eyebrow ends, you're going to feel this little tiny bone. It's very sensitive there.
Right, okay. So this is the first point of the gallbladder meridian. So as you mentioned, it begins at the outer eye, and it flows up and over the side of the head, and it continues down the side of the torso, hips, and outer legs, ending at the fourth toe. Someone comes in with headaches, redness around the eye, pain and swelling around the eye. It helps to dispel wind and clear heat. So someone with anger, muddled thinking, fear of change, this would be an indication, along with other point prescriptions, to needle this point. And once that is done, it helps balance and allow more clarity and compassion and reduce the redness and swelling of the eye, so while dispelling the heat.
Okay, so the next point, this is all so very interesting. Absolutely. The next point I would love to ask you about is the under the eye point. So just underneath the eye. This is a really sensitive point for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Okay, so for tapping, it's sensitive as well, because for acupuncture, it's not commonly needled due to the fact that it is extremely uncomfortable. So we would typically needle the point below, which is stomach 2. But nevertheless, stomach 1 is where the tapping is, and this meridian begins at the lower eye, and it flows down the face in front of the neck, and it continues down the front of the torso, in front of our legs and the outer legs, and it ends at our second toe. And so the stomach meridian is, in Chinese medicine, known to be particularly rich in qi and blood. So this is a very rich point to, I guess, tap and needle. And this point, along with others, may be used to balance, again, eye problems, vision problems, any swelling of the eye, But with emotions, people coming in with fear and anxiety, some emptiness and disappointment, even cravings. This point is great for cravings. We can use that. And then once the body balances and the point is needled, the feeling of being safe and calmness can now enter the body. And it's an amazing point. I particularly don't needle it just due to the sensitivity, but you can alter it slightly to achieve similar effects.
And that might be, that might be where an acupuncturist might give some homework, perhaps,
absolutely,
to the client.
Yeah. That would be very useful, where tapping would come in handy in that case.
Great. So let's move on to the point just under the nose. So
okay.
Let's divot under the nose.
I especially love this point because it's a tiny space, but there are actually 3 acupuncture points that encompasses this area. It's part of the due meridian, due 26, due 27, and 28. And the reason I love this point is because if someone goes unconscious, it is helped to restore consciousness and calm the spirit. So if someone goes down, right away you can apply acupressure and press as hard as you can just below the nose and restore consciousness. And it is also used in cases of mental disorders, epilepsy, hysteria, infantile convulsions, coma, and emotionally, people that are suffering with shame and they feel powerlessness, embarrassment, and the fear in general of being ridiculed and the fear of failure. So it's pretty remarkable, actually, the extent of issues that it can help with. And once balanced, self-acceptance and self-empowerment and compassion for self and others can now start coming through.
That's beautiful, because tapping itself is really effective for that. It's really, that's our mission with a lot of our clients, is to help them love and accept themselves, have compassion for themselves, All of these points make so much sense, the letting go, relaxing the muscles and nervous system. And that sounds like a really fantastic point. As you said, it even restores consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll move on to the next point, tapping point, which is the chin point. So that little divot underneath of the lower lip.
So this point is one of the final points on the Ren Meridian, also known as conception vessel, Ren 24. And it's the closing gap between this point and the previous one we just mentioned. And it's an important aspect of activating the microcosmic orbit, which is a powerful circular flow of energy. It's mainly cultivated by Qigong practitioners. And some indications may include things like facial paralysis or numbness, facial swelling, and I also use this point for a local sedative, such as anybody that comes in with a toothache or mouth ulcers, even trigeminal neuralgia. And emotionally, sometimes confusion or uncertainty. And again, similar to the point this previously discussed, like the shame and embarrassment. So working with this point will allow someone to gain, not only get, help with their pain, but bring in their self-confidence and acceptance once again. This channel is very powerful, the dew and the Ren and the circular cosmic flow around and through the body. So.
Okay, we'll move on now to the collarbone points, and that's that point. If you just make a fist or even take your open hand, and you can feel your collarbones there, just take your open hand and you lightly tap on that area. What does that correspond to in terms of acupuncture with the meridian points and the mental and emotional and physical views of that point?
Well, this point, it's hard to actually pinpoint which point exactly because there are many meridians that we can access. We can correspond to the ren. It can be the stomach channel. It could be kidney or lung. So there are many, many meridians actually surrounding this area. But in any sense, it helps with the capacity to help open up and expand a level of consciousness, giving an access to your life's purpose, as well as the healing of their heart, mind, and body. So depending on where you're tapping or putting an acupuncture point, it can also wake up the thymus gland, which, I just went through a blank there, but any indications, physical indications may include like a cough or asthma, pain in the chest, and it helps open the chest and regulate what we call rebellious lung qi. So initially, it helps to stop the cough and freeze the chest. So any feeling of wanting to move forward but feeling stuck, then you would go ahead and needle whichever point that best suits whatever the client is presenting themselves with. This one's a tricky one because there's lots going on in the chest area, as you may know.
And the thymus gland, if it's waking up the thymus gland, that's great. Is it for, correct me if I'm wrong, is that good for the immune system, to sort of wake up the immune system?
Absolutely. So if you want to think of your thymus gland as the furnace of your house, it kind of regulates the entire body. So if your furnace goes down, then many systems of your house doesn't work, right? So similar with your thymus, if it's down, then your respiratory system or your digestive system or whatever system may be now in balance. So tapping or needling to wake up the thymus gland will boost your immune system, and it does release T4 cells. So having a good laugh or a good cry also stimulates the thymus gland, which is why you feel good afterwards. Just having that release of T4 cells through the body can stimulate and wake up the thymus, which is like the key part of, well, like your furnace, right? You need your thymus to regulate in order to have a balance or functioning in the body.
Great. And I'm going to ask right now about the underarm point. So the underarm point is just underneath the arm where a woman's bra strap normally lays, just there on that point.
Okay. So that point corresponds to the gallbladder meridian, GB22, which essentially wakes up the flow of energy in the chest and diaphragm area, as well as the sides of the body. And it also can be close to the liver meridian as well, depending on which area exactly you're tapping, but liver meridian is close by. And if you're storing any anger or unhappiness, if you feel like you're complaining or have this bitterness to you, this is a great point where I could needle or tap and to have the client feel more happy and safe and in peace, because there's a lot that stores in the liver meridian as well as the gallbladder. They work hand in hand together. So,
okay, so safety, and that's a really big thing that we want to instill, of course, as we're doing the tapping, right? Because when the person feels unsafe, that's a point at where they've been triggered. Their nervous system is going off, and the amygdala is sounding that smoke detector, and the fire alarm is going off.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah, and just to really calm their system down. So that's a fantastic thing to know about the underarm point. The second to last, actually, point I'd like to talk about is the top of the head point. So right on the tip top of the head.
Okay, well, the top of the head is a big point in acupuncture. It's due 20, and I'll give you a little story. When I did some advanced training in China, we asked the professor if you only had one point that you could needle, which point would it be? And it was due 20, the top of the head. And the reason for this, it's known as the 100 meeting point. So it's where all the meridians kind of intersect or meet. So if when in doubt, we've been taught this is the point that you needle. So due 20 is a point where you can connect with your higher self, or whatever you want to call your higher power. And it's a great point for that. I'm not sure how it works in tapping, if you guys have the same philosophy, but it's a powerful point in that sense. Almost it's another topic where we can spend the whole day talking about the crown chakra, or the top of your head point.
Exactly. I was just going to mention the crown chakra, because in yoga, the crown chakra, it is meeting that energy from the universe. It's coming down through the top of the head and circling through the body. So
exactly,
our connection to the divine and the higher self, or the inner self, which I really like to talk about a lot, as some of the listeners know in my shows. So that's fantastic. The next point I would like to talk to you about is a really, we consider a very powerful point. It's called the gamut point, and it's between the ring and the pinky finger, that little divot in there between the ring and the pinky finger.
Okay, yeah.
Is that something you use in acupuncture as well?
So the gamut point is the third point of the triple warmer meridian. So the triple warmer is actually very important, where it turns on that fight or flight or stress response. So when it's feeling threatened, this fight or flight response will be very active. And quite often the triple warmer turns on when it doesn't need to. And you'll notice in the West, we're constantly in a state of worry or repetitive obsession or looping, like thinking over and over and over again. And we're not allowing our bodies to rest and digest. So when this triple warmer is turned on, yes, this point is great to needle, to kind of shut that system off and allow your body to just relax, chill out, calm the mind, and connect with the positive possibilities.
Positive possibilities. I love that. Oh, that's so lovely. So I'm sure that our listeners have been really, really engrossed in this. And actually, Tijen, I just want to ask you about a success story. Can you just tell us a success story? You're a fantastic acupuncturist, by the way. I have had the pleasure of being one of your clients. But I would definitely love to hear a success story or something that really stands out for you in your career.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So, there are many success stories, which is the reason I practice acupuncture. And, in the beginning of my practice, I'm going to be honest, I was a little skeptical about learning about this medicine, because I wasn't sure how it works exactly, or all the questions I needed to know. I couldn't get the answers. But as I continued to practice and these stories kept presenting themselves, there was no reason why I needed to know the science behind everything. And one of the treatments that really stood out to me was having a stroke patient where they lost all sensation and feeling on one side of their face. It was in paralysis. So what I did as an acupuncturist is seeing them every day after the stroke for 10 days straight. And the face revived itself. So it was a pretty neat experience to see how effective the acupuncture was in a case so severe, and something that you don't see too often come through your doors in the West, where in China, where I did study, you would see cases like this all the time come in, children with brain paralysis and people with Parkinson's and extreme cases like this is what I feel is a very, very heavy success in seeing this offhand. But from cases like that to cases where people are coming in with just not just depression, but depression, anxiety, stress, acupuncture is really great for that as well. So.
Wonderful. So that's an amazing, amazing story, by the way. Completely reverse the paralysis and the feeling?
Yeah, it did. And I mean, if you don't want to throw in that story, I can explain a little bit some success just on general of how just each individual person, what I see in each individual person. So some successes would be when simply just having the person center themselves. And what I mean by this is by just letting the world go and letting them be quiet and calm for a while. So people do this by paying attention to their breath, watching it go in and out and not controlling it. And just being in the moment instead of living in the past or worrying about the future. This, to me, by seeing my clients or patients achieve this, is a success in its own. And when we create an acupuncture pattern that we are working with energy directly, where you are able to touch pure consciousness with the intent to create an opportunity for healing on a level that transcends temporary physical body, we all inhibit while, we're now floating. So that to me is why I do what I do, and to witness this and to experience this with others is it's an amazing feeling. And so that to me is my success story.
That is so beautiful. That's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks, Stephenie.
And again, I really I want to ask you to just repeat where our listeners can reach you.
Absolutely. So you can reach me at www.earthkissessky.com, or you can email me at info@earthkissessky.com, or you can give me a call, 905-818-2903. So that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again, Tijen, for joining us.
Well, thank you, Stephenie.
Hi, this is Coach Stephenie Farrell. I understand what it's like to struggle with fear, anxiety, and frustration. I've fallen on my face more times than you care to count. But what I've learned is this: the only way to change your life is to change how you feel. I totally get how overwhelming it is to take that first step. You don't have to do this alone. Email me at Stephenie, that's STEPHENIE, at purpose-power-peace.com and claim your complimentary Breakthrough to Self-Empowerment session, where we'll create a personalized strategy for living your best life.